He confessed to 21 murders, over 1,000 violent assaults, crimes committed across 3 continents. He broke out of prison multiple times. He burned churches to the ground. He robbed the home of a former president of the United States. And when they finally put the noose around his neck, he spat in the executioner's face. His last words, "Hurry it up. I could kill 10 men while you are fooling around." He did not beg for mercy. He did not ask for forgiveness. He welcomed death because he said the world would be better off without him, and historians who have studied his case tend to agree. This is the story of Karl Panzram, the most dangerous man who ever lived, and the one guard who tried to understand him. Karl Panzram was born on June 28, 1891, on a farm near East Grand Forks, Minnesota. He was the 6th of 7 children born to German immigrant parents. His father abandoned the family when Karl was still very young. His mother struggled to keep the farm alive, and the children fed. There was no warmth, no stability, no safety. By the age of 8, Karl was already stealing from neighbors. By the age of 11, he had been arrested for his first burglary. He was sent to the Minnesota State Training School, a reform school that was supposed to rehabilitate troubled boys. Instead, it destroyed him. Karl was beaten by staff, humiliated, abused. He later wrote that everything that was done to him in that school turned whatever good was left in him into something else entirely. "I was taught to be a thief," he wrote. "They taught me with a club." When he left the school, he was not reformed. He was enraged. He stole a gun. He set fire to the school's supplies. He began a one-man war against the world that had hurt him, and he would not stop for the next 30 years. What followed was one of the most extraordinary criminal careers in history. Karl Panzram drifted across America, robbing, burning, and destroying everything he touched. He joined the United States Army and was dishonorably discharged within months for stealing. He was sent to Fort Leavenworth, the most brutal military prison in America. He escaped multiple times from every prison they put him in. Each time, he became more violent, more calculated, more consumed by rage. In 1920, he committed one of the most audacious burglaries in American history. He broke into the home of former President William Howard Taft. He stole jewelry, bonds, cash, and Taft's personal revolver. He used the money to buy a yacht. He named it Augusta, and he used it as a trap. He would hire sailors, promising them work. He would bring them aboard the Augusta. He would drug their drinks, and he would kill them. 10 sailors killed on his yacht in Long Island Sound, their bodies thrown into the water. Nobody suspected the well-dressed boat owner named Captain John O'Leary, because Captain John O'Leary was Karl Panzram, using one of the dozens of false identities he maintained throughout his life. Then, Panzram fled to Africa. In Angola, he posed as an oil prospector. He lured locals into the wilderness. He killed them. He later claimed to have murdered 6 people during his time in Africa alone. He traveled to Europe, to South America, to Central America, always moving, always leaving bodies behind. Back in America, the crimes continued. Burglaries, arsons, assaults. He burned churches specifically, because he said religion had never done anything for him. By the time he was finally captured for good in 1928, after a burglary in Washington, D.C., Karl Panzram had been in and out of prison dozens of times, had committed crimes in at least 12 American states and multiple countries, and had left a trail of destruction that investigators would spend years trying to piece together. At Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary, something unexpected happened. A young guard named Henry Lesser was assigned to Panzram's block. Unlike every other person in the prison system, Lesser did not try to break Panzram. He treated him like a human being. He gave Panzram $1 from his own pocket for cigarettes. He slipped him writing materials. He asked him to write down his story. And Karl Panzram, the man who said he hated every human being alive, did exactly that. What Panzram produced was one of the most disturbing documents in criminal history. A handwritten autobiography, raw, unfiltered, and completely without remorse. He described every murder, every crime, every act of violence with clinical precision, as if he were reading a grocery list. "In my lifetime, I have murdered 21 human beings," he wrote. "I have committed thousands of burglaries, robberies, arsons, and last but not least, I have committed sodomy on more than 1,000 male human beings. For all of these things, I am not in the least bit sorry." He went further. He said his goal in life had been to do as much harm to the human race as possible, that the world had made him what he was, and that if he ever got out, he would do it all again. Henry Lesser kept those pages hidden for decades. They were eventually published in 1970, 40 years after Panzram's death, under the title Killer, a Journal of Murder. It remains one of the most disturbing first-person accounts of a criminal mind ever published. While awaiting trial for his burglary conviction, Panzram killed again. He beat a prison laundry foreman named Robert Warncade to death with an iron bar. In front of witnesses, he showed no hesitation, no panic. He dropped the iron bar and waited for the guards. At his trial, he represented himself. He told the jury he was guilty. He asked them for the death sentence. "I have a good way out," he said. "Kill me. I deserve it. And the world will be better without me." The jury obliged. Humanitarian organizations attempted to have his execution stayed. They argued that his childhood abuse had made him what he was, that the prison system had created the monster. Panzram personally wrote to them, threatening to kill them if they interfered. He wanted to die, not because he was sorry, but because he was tired. On September 5, 1930, Karl Panzram was led to the gallows at Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. The executioner moved to place the hood over his head. Panzram spat in his face and snarled his final words. "Hurry it up, you Hoosier bastard! I could kill 10 men while you are fooling around." The trapdoor opened. At 6:18 in the morning, Karl Panzram was pronounced dead. He was 39 years old. Karl Panzram confessed to 21 murders. Investigators believed the real number was significantly higher. Before his execution, he confessed to 21 killings and over 1,000 violent assaults across multiple countries, showing zero remorse throughout. But the question that criminologists and psychologists have debated for nearly a century is this: was Karl Panzram born evil? Or was he made that way? He was abandoned as a child, beaten in a reform school, brutalized in prison after prison. He once wrote, "I was once a human being. Then I was placed in a cage, like an animal. And in that cage, they made me into one." Henry Lesser, the only person Panzram ever called a friend, spent the rest of his life trying to get Panzram's writings published. He believed the world needed to read them, not to celebrate Panzram, but to understand what happens when a child is failed by every system meant to protect him. The reform schools, the prisons, the military. Each one made Karl Panzram worse, and Karl Panzram made the world pay for it. His case changed how criminologists think about the relationship between childhood trauma and extreme violence. It raised questions that society is still struggling to answer today. At what point does a person become beyond redemption? And who bears the responsibility when they do? Karl Panzram died believing he was a monster. Whether he was born that way or created may be the most important question his story leaves behind. Was Karl Panzram born evil, or was he made that way? Drop your answer in the comments. New true crime case every week. Subscribe so you never miss one. Next case involves a secret hidden for decades.